All right, welcome back for another episode of Dollar Bin Digging. This is the article and video that I do for comicbookinvest.com where I talk about those little hidden treasures that are still tucked away, possibly in those cheap boxes, those dollar boxes, those discount bins, whether it be at your LCS, a flea market, half-price books, Second and Charles, wherever you find your cheap comic books, based on some of the more recent news and announcements, things happening in the comics, things of that nature, some rumors, some speculation, first appearances, things like that you can still go and find in those cheap boxes is what I'm going to talk about here. Apparently, you guys didn't like the movie homage covers last week because just not a lot of traction on that one. So, note taken. Note taken. You guys don't like the movie homages, but we'll go back to the normal run of things as I got a few stories that piqued my interest in a few books that you can still probably find out there for pretty cheap. Hopefully you're still enjoying this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Please like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. We're nearing 2,000 subs. Once we get there, I'll do another big giveaway. Probably going to be multiple giveaways, but we're going to have a nice little fun celebration once we hit that minor milestone. So help us along and get more people to check out the channel because it's not just me these days. A couple of my friends are doing some shows here as well. And hopefully you're enjoying everybody's stuff here because we're just having fun talking comics, pop culture, movies, all that fun stuff. And hopefully you're enjoying it, like I said. And if you want to know what books I want to talk about this week for Dollar Bin Digging, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be right back. Okay, so for this week, we are going to go back to our usual fare of going back to the news, or news for some of our ideas, and see what's what. Now, our first bit of news, well, this kind of ties into the most recent episode of Ms. Marvel. It kind of ties in here with Red Dagger. Now, I know I mentioned it before. I mentioned him months ago to go and look for that first appearance in Ms. Marvel number 12. That's going to be probably a tough ask these days for you to go find that first appearance, even though it's still pretty cheap. If you checked out the tack show this past week when we did the 10 comics in 10 minutes, you'll see that the prices are actually down a little bit from where they were when the spec craze was hitting a few months ago. But still keep an eye out for that Ms. Marvel 12 for Red Dagger's first appearance because he is an interesting character, and I think they adapted him pretty well. He caught my attention. I think he's a good character to add to the MCU. But they also kind of hinted at a little bit more in this most recent episode as well. And I also talked about this book before in Dollar Bin Digging, so maybe it's a repeat, but I still think you guys should be aware of it. And what the book I'm talking about here is number 29 from Ms. Marvel, because this is where Red Dagger and Kamala actually share a moment of a bit here. As you can see, they actually share their first kiss. Now, I know, first kiss comics, who cares? It's kind of nonsense. What are we, teenage girls? I'm just saying, it's still an interesting moment. It's still a fun read for her book, an important moment for her character. Both of these characters, really. I mean, Red Dagger doesn't have a ton of appearances, so it's a book you want to keep an eye out for, and especially if you can find it for cheap, like $1 or $2 is what I'm talking about. I'm not saying go out there and go pay $10, $20 or something like this. I'm just saying keep an eye out for a book like this for cheap. Apart from it having that pretty cool Archie-type homage cover, it's still relatively affordable. I mean, look, even copies now, recently sold, just this past week, $4, $9. It's not an expensive book, not by any stretch. Even the copies that are available are only in that cover price, like $4 to $8, $11 kind of range. It's not a very pricey book, and it's one that kind of pops when you find it in a box just because of the art. Like I said, this kind of Archie throwback with them kind of sharing a soda. It harkens back to that and kind of catches your eye anyway. For that reason, you should keep an eye out for it. But as I said, what's in the guts of this book is also kind of interesting too, especially if you're enjoying the Ms. Marvel show as much as I am. So just a little scavenger hunt type book, just to remind you of, again, I told you, I covered this already months ago, so hopefully you found it already, but if not, it doesn't hurt to find another one, just in case. But with that, that'll be our first lead-off book where we hit Marvel. We're going to hop on over to DC for a second because of the most recent most recent issue of Justice League Task Force. We see that the Task Force Z's Bane is not actually Bane. I mean, granted, they play it up a little bit. He's something far worse, but I thought this was kind of interesting. I'm not up to speed on reading all of my DC stuff, so this was kind of news to me, and I'm just kind of looked into it a little bit. But apparently in this Task Force Z issue 9, we find out that Mr. Bloom was playing around a little bit. And the Bane they have on this team is not the Bane that we all know and love. It's not OG original Bane. Granted, they don't actually tell you outright in this issue who he is yet. It's apparently it's hinted at. It's heavily hinted at, and there's a lot of good guesses of who it is, but it's not actually revealed yet. But the theory, at least that I'm finding online, is that it's actually Gotham. I don't know if you remember that character that first appeared when they started Rebirth, but they had those like the brother and sister type, like those superheroes, they're almost Superman-like powered characters in Gotham. That is who Mr. Bloom decided to reanimate to make his new Bane, I guess. Now, Gotham first appeared in DC Universe Rebirth #1. Yes, the original restart, most recent restart, I guess. Is this the most recent? I don't know. Now, I guess if you don't count Future State, I don't know. One of the future restarts of the DC Universe within the last decade or so. This was what, 2016? So in this issue is where we are getting the first appearance of Gotham. There they are. It's like one panel. I kind of blew it up. That's really it. It's a cameo at best, I guess, if we're going to play that kind of game of what type of first appearance it is. But it is what it is. That's them in this book. It's only like a long strip panel. That's it. But it's still in this Rebirth #1, which has multiple covers and printings. There's the regular, obviously, to keep an eye out for. There was a midnight release cover that's also out there floating around for cheap. I mean, this is a $2.99 book, so it's not an expensive book to start. But there's multiples out of these out there, like covers, I should say. There's, like I said, this midnight release. There's the second print, which I'm showing you the full wraparound cover. That's the same as the first print, but this is the second printing. You can check it on the barcode at the top there that tells you that it is the second printing right here. See that #2? That is the second print for this one, because it has the same cover as issue 1, the first printing. After that, they decided to switch it up and gave us some different covers. And these actually do all right if you can find them. So this third print with Wally West return, because that was a big moment inside the book. So getting this on the cover made a lot of sense and made this book kind of desirable, as was the reveal of the 3 Jokers, which for a time, this was also a very heavily desired book. This was hitting like 30, 40 bucks easy for a stretch. This fourth printing that shows the 3 Jokers on the cover. And then there's also a 5th printing as well, which I guess people will argue is probably the lowest printed, or I don't know. But it is what it is. This is another one that does okay, so keep an eye out for this in a box as well if you can find it for cheap, because it's a cool little cover. And you can see here, it's $5.99 now. It got a little more expensive as we went on. But with that said, let's look at the original first print. It's still pretty cheap. Look, copies selling for $3, $6. There's one of those later printings that I mentioned, the 4th print sold for $27. So that's what I'm saying. If you find those later printings, they seem to have a little bit more interest from the from the collectors in the aftermarket. So keep an eye out for those if you can grab them, and if you can grab them for cheap. Again, that's all we're talking about. These are things you go and look for, you hunt for. Maybe you find them, maybe you don't. You're not going to go break your back for it, but you're also not going to break your wallet spending a lot of money. That's not what I'm telling you to do. I'm telling you to look for this stuff for cheap. And even online, it's not that bad. There's that midnight cover from my comic shop. It's only $2.40. $10, $10 for that 5th printing. But granted, that's out of the UK, so it's a little bit more on shipping. But that's what we're talking about here. Find copies out in the wild for cheap. Don't go buying these online unless you really want them. I mean, it's your money. You do what you want. I'm just trying to tell you, for dollar bin digging, just go hunt these in the cheap boxes, because there's a heavily printed book, multiple printings of this book. There's a lot of copy floating around out there, so you could probably still find some of these out there for those discount prices, including, as I said, that first appearance for Gotham was very much a very one panel kind of cameo. If you want a good first appearance, it really was in Batman Rebirth #1. That's another book that there's tons and tons of copies for out there. A couple of covers too. They've had reprints as well for Batman Day, this, that, and the other. There are a lot of covers for this book, but I'm just showing you the regular, which again is still very cheap, 99 cents, $2.75, $6. I mean, so anywhere from $1 to $6, this one's kind of selling for online, with copies available or asking $4 to $15 online. So keep an eye out for it just in case. Like I said, there's a lot of these out there, but if you can find a first print, and you can find it for cheap, might as well just grab it, because it doesn't hurt to have it, because it's still the first appearance of those 2 Gothams or whatever. Gotham and Gotham Girl, or I forget how they ended up going, because he didn't actually last very long in the comics. I believe he died pretty early on, and then kind of came back. But here he is back again as Bane. That said, there's a little stint into DC for a moment. We're going to shift on back over to Marvel for a second and take a look at the Doctor Doom news. Yes, I get it. We talked about this on the TAC show as well. This hot mic little tease. Maybe Howard Stern is just messing with people because I don't see what role Howard Stern will play in a Doctor Doom series movie. I'm pretty sure it would be a series if there's anything. But I think this is just him pulling people's legs. I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, it could be real, could be true. I don't know who he could be playing. He could be playing a character very loosely based on himself, like a shock jock just happens to be in this universe. I don't know. All we know is rumors of Doctor Doom, and this would make for a great series. And we know we're going to get Doctor Doom at some point, right? Like, we're going to get him back. I don't know if it'll be in Fantastic Four. I don't know if it'll be in Black Panther 2. I don't know if it'll be in his own thing, in a movie, in a series. We just know we're going to get Victor Von Doom at some point, right? What I'm thinking, though, is since we're getting him so late into the MCU, they're probably going to really jump ahead as far as Doctor Doom goes. And we're not just going to get the science fiction-y tech genius version, the foil to Reed Richards, if you will, version. We're probably going to get the more well-rounded leader of Latveria, this ruler of a kingdom, this sorcerer supreme almost, or at least worthy sorcerer supreme type character or level, magician or whatever you want to call sorcerer, I guess. That type of Doom mixed with the science and technology. And while those original ideas of when the magic and stuff happened way, way, way back in, like, was it Fantastic Four Annual #2, when we get a bit of the origin, a bit about Doom's mother, I don't think that really took off in the comics until Mark Waid kind of brought it back. So that's why I still like this series. Again, this is another one I've talked about before. I don't mind talking about it again because you can still find this for cheap, and I still like this book. This is Fantastic Four #67 or 496 if you go by the legacy numbering. And you can see this is the prologue to Unthinkable, which was like a 4-issue story, which was pretty cool. You got Valeria Richards in there. You got a lot of this mysticism around Doctor Doom. And in this particular issue, apart from him really embracing those sorcerers type roots, we get this demonic armor version of Doom. I think this is a possibility. We get something like this on screen at some point too, and probably not too long into our introduction to Doom. We get some version of this, and I think it would be pretty cool to see on screen. So this demonic armored version Doom is first here in this 460, this issue 67 or 496, depending which numbering you want to go with, because this is what volume 3 of Fantastic Four, following the original. Then the Heroes Were Born 12 issues, and then they started over with volume 3, and then they went to legacy numbering. That's why you got 496 on there as well. Anyway, this is a good run to get, but this is the first issue, the prologue of it, so that's the one you want to keep an eye out for first. Get the others if you can. Again, these don't sell for a lot. Look, it's $7.50 for that issue 67, 68, 69, and 70. Those almost a complete run of Unthinkable, I think, because I think it wrapped up in issue 500. So keep an eye out for that. Because look, $7.50 one sold for this little lot, and even copies online are only $3, $5, $13 for, like I said, the 5 comic lot. Get that whole storyline for cheap. I mean, $13 ain't bad at all for 5 comics, right? But those are discounts, and that's the type of thing I'm talking about. These are cheap books that you can still get for a good read, some interesting moments, some interesting characters. Tuck them away in a box, add them to your collection, and who knows? Who knows what happens? If you want to play the spec game, you can spec on this stuff if you want. I'm just throwing it out there that for now, keep an eye out on it because it's cheap and it's kind of fun to find, right? That said, that's my little jaunt with Doom. There's plenty more Doom books we can get into and talk about, but I'm just going to keep it there for right now, not to beat a dead horse, because I don't think this is anything we're getting anytime soon. Like I said, I don't think it's a real story, but that's just a personal gut feeling. I mean, I could be wrong, and maybe Howard Stern really is involved in something. Maybe. I just doubt it. But what we do know we are getting, and yes, this may not be for everybody, but I'm sure this will be interesting to some folks. We are getting this Monster High, the movie, live action. I know you've seen the toys, whether you have kids, not, whether you have little girls, little boys, doesn't matter. Like, I'm pretty sure you've seen these Monster High things, the huge heads, the big giant eyes, these kids that are monsters as well. Nickelodeon's coming out with this live action musical adaptation. So I think it just will come back to this, this product, to this series, to this intellectual property. And there's not like a lot of comics. There were some like Swedish magazines that I found that came out in like 2012, and there were these graphic novels that also came out. I think these were like 2014. So I mean, if you're interested, you can go look for them. But I don't know if you're gonna find these things. Like I said, this is the kind of design. Like I said, the big heads, and they're all like, hey, look, there's a vampire, there's a a Frankenstein, and a Cleopatra. I don't remember the characters' names. I don't really know. My son, he watched it for a little bit, but he didn't really get into it, so I don't really know much about it. But that's what we have for this Monster High graphic novel, at least. But you're probably not going to find the graphic novel for $1. But what you might be able to find tucked away in those boxes, because Free Comic Book Day books, they find their way in those cheap boxes, is this Free Comic Book Day book from 2017, I think it was, the 2017 run of Free Comic Book Day stuff. That's where you might find this Monster High comic book, which I think is issue 0, which I think might be the first one. And you can see this actually sells all right. I mean, $1.75. Where's the comic? Oh, there it is. Sorry for the little mistake there with the images, but $1.75, $8, $20 this thing is sold for previously. And even asking prices right now are anywhere from $10, $15, $20 for Monster High, a Free Comic Book Day book. So one of those things. Go look for it, because this could be tucked away in a box. Titan Comics, who knows how many were ordered, who knows how many are out there, but any leftovers that people didn't scoop up are probably just thrown away into these dollar bin cheap boxes, these discount boxes. So go digging for it, right? And now I got one more, and we're gonna kind of keep with this Free Comic Book Day kind of angle, because these, like I said, these could be found. I see these all the time in the cheap boxes. Yeah, maybe you find the One Punch Man, My Hero Academia. Yeah, you can look for it. Maybe you find the Umbrella Academy. Look for them. There is plenty of these Free Comic Book Day books that are worth a few bucks. But Monster High is one that can make you a few bucks. But here we go with another story related to Venom. They're teasing that they're going to reveal the identity of this villain symbiote, this character Bedlam. So we'll see. We'll see who this ends up being. I guess behind the symbiote. I don't know. I'm not really keeping up, like I said, too much on the Venoms either. I have them because I did, have a soft spot for Venom, but it's just there's so many books to read these days. I try to keep up as best I can. So I don't know what's currently going on right this minute. I'll catch up soon just so I can kind of see what's going on. But I do know that this Bedlam has got this story, and it's related to some of these other symbiotes that were teased, and some of these other symbiote type characters teased in these last 2 Free Comic Book Day books. The Spider-Man and Venom Free Comic Book Day. This one is this year's. So this just came out a couple of months ago, or not that long ago. Well, maybe 2 months. Was it May? So this is a more recent one. And inside this one, there's a tease of all of these crazy symbiote characters that we're getting. I mean, you can see Bedlam there. You can see there's sleepers in there. You got Toxin. You got regular Venom. I don't know all of the characters because some of them are kind of unknown. I think that's Little Normie. I don't know what his character's name is these days, but all these symbiotes, maybe we're getting more. Some of these could be first appearances that we don't know who they are. Maybe you guys know who these guys are, and I'm just a little bit behind, but there's just a lot going on here. So something to keep an eye out for. But then you also have that character floating in the background, which we will get to in a minute, because he does have a first appearance, and it came in the other Free Comic Book Day version. But let's look at the more recent one. So this one, just real quick, just came out. Like I said, you can see it's selling for $2, $4. There's a few of them for like $7. Still pretty cheap. It's a recent one. The Marvel ones are usually heavily ordered because people like grabbing for Free Comic Book Day. People like grabbing the Marvel books. So these are going to be a little more easy to find than, say, the Titan book, that Monster High, or the One Punch Man. But that doesn't mean you should ignore it. If you can find it for cheap, you know what? Go ahead, grab an extra one. I know a lot of people are grabbing the other one, that Avenger one, because of the Blade's daughter and all that. I mean, go find that too. Who cares? If it's cheap enough, just grab it, because it should have been free at this point. If you missed it for free, pay that $1. It's just $1. And asking prices for this one, $4.75, $5, $14, as I said, for the last 2. So that's 2022 and 2021. And we're going to get to 2021 as well, because, like I said, it kind of ties into what I think is going on in the Venom books these days. So the 2021 Free Comic Book Day version is also Spider-Man Venom, is also one you could probably find out there. Like I said, these extras, they just get tucked away and thrown in these boxes. And in this one, you actually do get a first appearance of that character I said was floating back there. Meridius, that's his name. I couldn't remember the name off the top of my head, but I knew I put it on the slide. Meridius is this character that seems to be I think he's like a king of the All Black or something. Something about a garden. I guess I'm trying to catch up. I'm trying to figure out what's going on, but it's kind of interesting. But at the same time, there's a lot going on. A lot of symbiotes. It's a lot to absorb. But I can absorb the fact that if I can find this Free Comic Book Day book for like 50 cents, for $1, or if you can still find it for free, just go and grab them. You know, grab them just in case, because some of these first appearances do count and they do matter to a lot of people. This one, you can see the set, the two 2021 and 2022 one I just mentioned, $3 a set sold for, or $3 or $2 for this book. It's still selling for cheap online. You can find these. Right, I know there's plenty. I'm not saying it should be worth a lot. I'm just trying to give you something fun to go out there and hunt for cheap that I think is kind of interesting and also has something of note in it, like a first appearance. You can also see, as I mentioned, the asking price is $14 for the two of them, $5, $9. I'm not saying you go pay $9 for these things. I'm like I told you, go look for it in the cheap boxes, and if you find it, congratulations, you found a nice little book for cheap. Just something fun to have, something fun to add as, like I said, a scavenger hunt. That's kind of the angle I'm playing with these days with dollar bin digging, because you saw I had to recap a couple of books that I've already talked about before, because there's only so many things I can tell you that you're gonna find in a dollar box. You should know if you find a book that's worth like $100. It could be in a dollar box. You can find it, but I'm not going to tell you to hunt for it, because the practicality of you actually finding a book like I don't know, like a Lost 23, which I have found for $1. Me telling you to find it in a dollar bin is a waste of everybody's time. So I'm trying to think of those weird little niche ideas that could make this kind of interesting, to make it more of a fun event. So this way, when you do find those big scores in the dollar bins, maybe when you don't find those big scores, you could still find something that makes your digging worth your time and still fun, because that's what this should be. I love digging in boxes. Comics should be fun. This is a hobby after all, at least for many of us, not all of us. I know it's a business for some, but for me, it's my hobby. It's my passion. I love this stuff. I love talking about this stuff, and I love sharing this stuff with you guys. Hopefully you're still enjoying it. And with that, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you all checking this out and continuing to support me and the channel, and comicbookinvest.com, and checking out the article there, which I've been writing this for a couple of years now. This is episode 199 of Dollar Bin Digging. So I'll be hitting 200 articles, episodes, whatever you want to call it, very, very soon. I don't know. I probably should do something fun for it, but I haven't thought about it yet. I don't know. I'll figure it out by next week. We'll see what we do for 200. But again, thank you for coming along this ride with me. I do appreciate you all. And yeah, hopefully you're still enjoying it. And with that, I will see you guys soon with some more content. All right. Later.